everyone coming in, we'll start 5 minutes after again. So just come on in. Will is here from Change Donations. And Lizzy will be joining us shortly. We'll get started then. I guess I'll turn the music back on. How's everyone's Fridays going? Do you all have good July 4th plans? Paula, you're probably not necessarily celebrating July 4th, but the rest of you have stuff going on this weekend? Yeah. Awesome. John, hey, how you doing? Whoops. All right, people are coming in. All right, there's Lizzy. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Hey, Lizzy, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining. I told Will we'll get started in a couple minutes. We're giving everyone else a minute to join in. So if you have water clearly, so you're set there. But if you have to go to the bathroom, go for it or grab anything. We're just letting everyone join in, and we'll get started. I'll say it again, and this is the last time I'll announce it. But if you have the ability to turn your camera on, please do turn it on so that Will and Lizzy can see you all and know who they're talking to and see your faces. Yeah, if your camera's broken, thanks Noah for letting me know. No worries. But the rest of you, if you have that ability, it is appreciated. Think if you were in their shoes. So thank you. Sweet. Where are you guys, Will and Lizzy, geographically?
So I'm actually in the U.S. right now. I'm in a town just 3 hours outside of D.C.
Okay.
It's a coastal town called Bethany Beach. So I know some people from Sage Corps are East Coasters, so they may be familiar with it.
Cool.
I'm still in Dublin, so I'm in Ireland.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us in the afternoon, early evening, and thanks, Will, for taking some time out on a Friday. And if you're in a beach town on July 4th weekend, much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Both of you. Cool. So I'll let anyone else who's stragglers come on in, but we'll get started now. So first of all, thank you, Will and Lizzy, for making time, as I just said, to chat with our cohort. We got about 30 of our Sage Core remote cohort on the call. To give you all some context, everyone here is working for a variety of startups, around the country and globe. As remote interns, as you know what our program does, and obviously you know Sam from last summer, and they're excited to hear about your journey and the company you're building, and learn more about mission-driven companies as well. So just to give you context of who you're talking to, they're all college students, like the students you met last summer. So in order to get started, I think what might be nice is just to have each of you introduce yourselves. Obviously, you can talk about your role at Change Donations, but if you want to go just a little bit further back and how you, a little bit about your career and who you both are, and then we'll dive more into Change Donations from there. But Will, since Lizzy just needs, if you want to go first, and bless you, and your camera's lit up, you can lead the way.
Yeah, no problem at all. God bless you, Lizzy. Hopefully that sneeze didn't hurt you too much. But yeah, so I'm Will Conahan. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. I grew up there all my life, went to Georgetown University, and then after Georgetown, I moved up to New York to work as a financial analyst. So I was kind of classically trained in finance. graduating with a finance degree from Georgetown, and all my classes were kind of business related, econ related, and finance related. And then I took a job in New York as an analyst. So crunchy numbers, back office finance, budgeting, forecasting. I'm doing some cool things with numbers, but still revolving very much in the back office end of things, specifically on the numbers side of things. And so then I picked up and moved to Ireland with the intent to get an MBA and then kind of explore the European scene. And I had originally thought that I was going to get into sort of the M&A department of a large technology company. Dublin had become a massive tech hub. It had kind of been where all of the European companies or even US companies were basing their European headquarters. So Google, Facebook, Airbnb, Twitter, Apple, they all had an office in Ireland. And then London was also a stone's throw away, and they're a pretty big tech hub for startups as well. And then Paris had just opened up this new sort of, I guess, environment is what you'd call it. It was called Station F, which was an old converted train station that Facebook bought primarily most of the retail space in there. But a bunch of other startups had kind of jumped on and joined sort of this movement toward building out a shared co-working tech startup space. So I really kind of believed in what the European Union as a whole was doing for tech startups, and pulled the trigger and moved over to Dublin, which is where I met Lizzy, and then kind of our stories converged. So I'll let her get into her side of things, and then we can talk about Change Donations as a whole.
Yeah, so like Will, I'm from the US originally. I grew up primarily in Northern California in the Bay Area, but bounced back and forth between the East Coast and the West Coast a lot. So now I'm kind of equal split coast to coast. So I finished up high school in New Jersey and then went to UMass to do my undergrad. And then after college, ended up working at all sorts of startups in both San Francisco and New York. So I started my career in e-commerce startup, like a really small 12-person team. I was able to kind of really learn the ropes, which was great. We were acquired by eBay. And so I ended up working at eBay for about 4 years, where I was able to work on a lot of different sort of pilot programs. So launching new initiatives within a bigger company. So kind of operating as a startup, but within a big company, which was amazing. So we launched their first same-day delivery pilot, which was called eBay Now. So it was kind of pre-Postmates and stuff. And then worked a lot on eBay fashion and innovation. So after about 4 years at eBay, I decided I wanted to kind of get into the fashion side of things and see what that was all about. So moved back to New York, ended up working at a company called Shoptiques, which we did, we're kind of like Farfetch basically for fashion. So you could buy a product from any boutique around the world. So I was there for a while, really missed San Francisco, and ended up actually getting recruited back to San Francisco to lead the fashion strategy for a fintech startup, which was kind of a strange fit. I never thought I'd ever be in anything related to finance at all. But I moved back to San Francisco. I fell in love with the company. It was a fantastic team. Moved back to San Francisco and was able to lead the fashion strategy there, and then launched the first in-store virtual debit card. And the really cool thing about the fintech I was at was it was a point of sale loan. So it allowed a user to basically get a loan for something they needed at the time. So it was to give credit to people that really need it, but wouldn't actually be able to get credit loan. And when I was going into stores, I was able to hear kind of all these stories about how it was really helping them in their lives. So that really kind of made me fall in love with fintech and realize the benefits it could have for people instead of just like, typical finance, kind of what I thought was sort of boring. It was, this could actually really benefit people's lives. So I was there for 2 years. I decided I wanted to get an MBA. Everyone I knew had an MBA. It was kind of like the next thing in my career. So moved to Dublin to go to Trinity to get my MBA. And that's, again, where Will and I met. So that's where our stories come together. And then I think, so Change Donations, we are a digital donation platform. So we allow a donor to link a card, round up their purchases to the nearest euro, and then donate their digital spare change to the causes they care about most. So Will originally had that idea. We were talking through different project ideas in one of our first classes. And I think our skill set kind of make it happen. So we started working on that probably month one of the MBA, and we have been at it ever since.
Awesome. I mean, so both your stories are great, and it's interesting that they both led you to Ireland serendipitously. Two expats now, but now building a company in Europe. It's a pretty cool story that you both came from different paths, and obviously, for the fellows in the room, you see how one thing leads to another. You don't really how your skills are going to overlap with someone else's and create a union, right? Lizzy has all this startup experience, and Will had the finance experience, and the union has been nice for what they're developing and moving forward. So yeah, I would love to dive deeper into change donations. If you guys want to chat, I don't know if do you have a deck you want to go through, or do you want to just talk about it more generally? Either works, but I'll leave it to you two, and I can make one of you the host if you want.
Yeah, I've got a deck, and I can share my screen, and we can kind of walk through.
Perfect.
Kind of, it's more of like an incubation deck. So what we would pitch to, sort of a startup ecosystem that kind of goes through the lean canvas model. So the problem, solution, a little bit of a demo, and then the market size.
Perfect.
Rather than just a traditional demo.
Yeah.
So I can, let me work on that.
Yeah, that'll be perfect for everyone to see. Thanks.
Okay. So I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, you should be co-host and able to now. Yeah, cool.
Okay. Let me know when it's presenting. Can you see?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is kind of our deck template, and just kind of gives you a little bit of a flavor of our brand and who we are and what we do. So our sort of punchy little, 4-word, 5-word motto is, give every purchase a purpose. So our whole goal is we're trying to build a community of everyday philanthropists, and we're trying to change the way that people give, and hope that they incorporate giving into their daily life in the same way that people talk about their finances or their investment portfolio, or even their expenditure. So we can go into the logo design if you want. We put about 4 months into that, and so that was an interesting experience, which a lot of people start with, but we didn't really come across this logo until about a year and a half into the process. So we can definitely run through that if that's something that people want to talk about. In a lot of cases, most people start with sort of focusing on the brand image and trying to create a brand, which is one of the toughest things to do. So I guess before we get into it, I would just kind of recommend, if anybody is thinking about getting into a startup, you really have to focus on the nuts and bolts of the business before you sort of start building a brand and things like that. But yeah, so I guess we'll dive in. So yeah, so our mission again is at Change Donations, we want to give every purchase a purpose and create a community of everyday philanthropists, inspiring positive change through their everyday spending. So again, our whole ethos is about building a community. So we want to kind of take that whole approach of, every penny counts, and a small changes can make a big impact. And so that's really where we want to put our donors and our charity partners in that headspace. So we really kind of identified this problem in that everybody was kind of trending towards a cashless society, both retailers, donors, everyday individuals, people who've never donated before. Cash was just kind of going away. So most charities, they're pretty familiar with most of the traditional fundraising methods. So shaking a collection bucket on the street, or going door to door, knocking with a clipboard, or even at a big fundraiser event like a fun run or a barbecue or a potluck or whatever event that they've got going on. It's largely dependent on cash donations. And so with cash going away and people stopped carrying it, we saw that charities were kind of getting left behind, and they didn't really have a digital solution that really fit and aligned with the lifestyles of their constituents and their donors. And we also saw that it started to become way too expensive for charities to start fundraising across the board. So even on the digital level as well. So they were spending as much as 33% on fundraising costs alone, just because they didn't really know how to keep up with the ever-changing trends. So, text to donate came out, so they put some money into that, or a new digital one-off donation campaign came through that. They'd have to rebuild a website. They'd have to build an app. So they didn't really know where to spend their money. And in terms of fundraising, it became massively expensive for them. So Ireland's a little bit of a specific case as well, just because there was a government mandate to kind of pull back all of the copper coins. So they have 1s, 2s, and 5-cent coins are all copper coins. They pulled back the 1 and 2 cent coins, which resulted in a 70% decrease across cash donations for all charities across Ireland. And then since 2010, there was a 24% decrease across the board from online cash and everything else in terms of total donations in Ireland. One of the other things that we saw was that, charities were really struggling to connect with the younger generation of donors. And that cohort, so the millennial, Gen Z age groups were, massively, so all of us were massively involved in terms of speaking up about, political action or social justice campaigns or environmental causes or animal shelters. We were one of the loudest audience members or audience cohorts for multiple causes. But only 11% of millennials were actually giving. And a lot of that is sort of financially circumstantial. So millennials tend not to have as much money as their parents, which is why they don't give as much. But we also saw that there was a massive disconnect. So 73% of millennials will volunteer their time, but they don't find a way that's kind of comfortable for them to give. So we did some internal surveys. We asked around, we surveyed donors, we surveyed charities. We kind of came to the conclusion that, look, if there was an option that was kind of aligned to their lifestyle and fit their needs, they would be much more willing to donate. And so that's kind of where we stumbled upon change donations. So I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when we also kind of jump back into, the giving trends, millennial donors and the younger donors, and even sort of stretching back into the, 40-year-old age group, the typical donor will give to about 4 to 4.5 charities. So anywhere from 4 to 5. So that includes your kid's school, your alma mater, your local charity. So people have all these touch points with a bunch of different charities, and the days of kind of picking one charity and sticking with them till you die. So the Catholic Church is kind of a big example of, most people have the Catholic Church in the older generations will have the Catholic Church in their wills. They give to the church, that's all they give to, and they kind of pick one charity and that's it. And so those days are kind of in the past, and people like to give to multiple different causes and multiple different organizations, and they tend to sort of organically take a portfolio approach to giving. And so there really isn't any platform out there that kind of caters to that. If you want to give to 4 different causes, you have to go to 4 different websites, talk to 4 different fundraising managers, or sign up to 4 different direct debits. So it's not a simple all size or one size fits all solution for anybody that's currently out there. And so we wanted to kind of help solve that issue. Also, the substantial growth in mobile and online giving platforms. Facebook kind of set the tone in terms of, 2 years into their Facebook donate button, that they've already raised $2 billion in donations. So it's a massively successful market in the digital donation space. And social and mobile has been, growing exponentially year on year. So I guess Lizzy's probably best at kind of walking through how it works and the process behind everything. So Lizzy, if you want to jump in, it's just the middle game deck if you're familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the idea behind it is there's no change to your everyday spending. So you can imagine, you go for your morning coffee, it costs you €2.85, $2.85. Our platform then would automatically round that up to the nearest dollar. So here in double the nearest euro, and donate the 15-cent difference to the causes that you care about most. So it could be your alma mater and a charity. It could be any sort of different combination that you like. So really kind of allowing a donor to incorporate giving into their everyday lives. And so, as you can imagine, that really allows charities to connect with donors who care passionately about what they're working on, but maybe don't have the means to give them that $20 a month, 20 euros a month, whatever it might be, the bigger amount. So little change does add up. So we're actually seeing the typical roundup is about 35 cents. And we're allowing donors to set caps on that, so you can make sure you never go above your budget, but it does add up. So if you did round up that 35 cents, the average person is tapping their card about 70 times a month. So it's actually donating anywhere between 20, 25 euros. So it does add up quite quickly, which is great. So today, this is a little bit outdated now. We've had a really big month. So we're now 35 charities live. We've been getting new charities onto the platform every day, registering, trying to go live with us. We're now almost 400 donors, which has been fantastic, with big ones like the Irish Red Cross, UNICEF, kind of just across the board, Special Olympics. So it's been really, really great to kind of connect with them and grow the platform. And yeah, so this is what we look like soon. This is version 2 of the platform. But basically, as you can see, it's really simple. It's super flexible, and we try to make it as transparent as possible. So here you can see in the left-hand screen, you'll see a list of all the different charities you're donating to. So you can see how you're impacting each specific cause. Below that, you'll see then all the transaction history. So how much you actually spent at a specific merchant, and then what the roundup amount was. That way you can go back and understand like where those donations were coming from. In the case that you wanted to cancel a donation, we operate under a traffic light system. So green means that the transaction was donated. Orange means it's pending, so you can still go back and cancel it if you'd like to. And then red is if you did cancel a transaction, it still shows up, but it will show up as red, so you know that it was never processed through. And then at the top, you'll be able to see, this month, this year, and kind of all-time donations, which is just to kind of help with transparency. So yeah, so this is kind of the process you walk through. So you find the cause that you care about. That's step 1. You then link your account for roundups. So that's really similar to like if anyone's used Acorns or something like that. It's the same process. You link it through your traditional online banking details. You then add a card that you want the donation to be processed. And you'll be able to see your impact on a daily basis. You'll be able to see transactions, and that roundup will start happening automatically as you make purchases. Yes, this is the team. We are growing steadily, which has been great. So Will and I started the company back in 2017, well, ideation stage. We brought Kate and Vahe on, Kate last summer and Vahe kind of a little bit later on. So our first software engineers. We've now hired a technical architect, which has been fantastic. Simon, 25 years of industry experience. And then we brought on Matt to help us with the marketing side of things. So he'd work at some big agencies in the States, moved over to Dublin to do his master's in digital marketing. So he's been helping us out and has been phenomenal add to the team. We've also just hired two marketing interns, and we have another digital marketing master's student that's working with us as well. So the team has been growing quite quickly, which has been fantastic.
I can jump back into the market size if you want. So yeah, my computer's kind of, the fan's blowing up a little bit. So if my connection cuts out, just let me know. And Lizzy can just jump in and take over. But yeah, so the way that we kind of looked at it, there's a couple of different ways that you could have looked at the market size. We originally looked at, credit card transactions because we were in the roundup business. But we found that, the philanthropy market was probably much more of a better indicator of what the actual size was. Coincidentally, they kind of ended up to be the same amount when we kind of calculated the number of transactions that are going on, the growth rate, and the volume of money flowing through credit and debit cards. But this is kind of a much more linear story when it comes to how we relate and how we plug into the philanthropy market. So the total market, so all of the philanthropy that's given really in the US, Ireland, and the UK, that those are kind of the main focused geographies that we focused on. We didn't really want to get into mainland Europe, South America, Africa. We just kind of wanted to focus on basically English-speaking countries. And so this $420 billion market is just the US, Ireland, and the UK. Then we wanted to weed out, the the public sector giving or the government sector giving. So we took out anything that was kind of given by, large government agencies, and things like that. So that reduced the market size down to 375 billion. And then we wanted to look solely at, online transactions, or digital transactions. So that would help remove any big endowment checks. So if somebody left a large sum of money in their will, or they went over and donated a building to a school, that wouldn't show up in what we would consider that online digital market. So that would be basically anybody who signed up for a direct debit, or who would have gone through a school or charity portal, whereby you just enter your credit card information and donate anywhere between zero and basically $1,500. So pretty small denominations in terms of transactions, but as you can see, the market is pretty substantial. So our kind of core target market, the area that we feel this is going to be the most successful is on the university stage. So when you think about universities, you know that they do have an endowment. You've probably heard that they're massive. So you don't really think that they have a fundraising issue or an alumni giving issue. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you kind of understand that only 20% of an alumni population actually gives, and that's on average across the top 150 schools. And then when you would kind of break it down and say, okay, well, I bet Harvard has a really strong alumni giving program, or Notre Dame, or any of the big names who you can't walk down the street, and if somebody goes to Harvard, they're going to let you know. If they go to Notre Dame, they'll have a shirt on or a hat on. So you'd kind of assume that they had a stronger alumni giving population. So this is kind of a list of the top 10 notable schools for us. So ones that we were kind of completely shocked by, specifically NYU. And then Notre Dame is kind of the indicator of that's probably one of the better ones. Notre Dame and Princeton sit there at the top of the list, and that was really as high as they got. There are a couple of smaller liberal arts schools up in Maine. Traditionally is where they do the best, but that's again a skewed sample size because their class sizes are 200 to 300 kids, so it can be skewed a little bit by that small number of students. So we feel that we could go into a university and either in a subsect of a university, so a sorority or fraternity within a university, and kind of help them streamline their fundraising efforts. So where we see that we're different than most of the other fundraising opportunities is that we kind of align with your daily lifestyle. So you're going to the store every day, you're going to buy your coffee, you're going to buy your lunch, you might buy dinner, you might pay for a subway ride. That part of your life isn't really going to change. And so rather than try and add another task to your life, we'll just kind of align your giving plan with what you're already doing. So, you buy a coffee for $2.75, $2.85, an extra 15 cents isn't going to hurt. And if you did pay in cash, you probably would have dropped it in the register or the bucket at the register. Now you don't even have to have any transaction. It just does it automatically in the background. So we think that this is an easy way specifically for recent grads and that first 5 years of alumni where they're really hounding you for money but don't really want to push you too hard. We think that this is going to be kind of a nice and easy tool to help transition people into lifetime donors, because everybody kind of has a strong emotional attachment to their university, specifically in the US. So I think if given the opportunity, most people would give back to their school. They just want to be able to give on their own means. So there are a couple of micro, what we would call, we consider ourselves in the micro trend. So within the micro trend or microfinancing trend. So within that, there is micro investing. So something like Acorns. And I think even Robinhood now has, you can round up a portion of your paycheck or take a portion of your paycheck where it takes it and puts it into an investment account. And there's a ton of round up and save. So most banks will have a savings card that wherever you use it, it'll round up or take a percentage of sale and kick it into a savings account. So that's kind of been around for a while and people are familiar with the concept, but it really hasn't been applied to the donation space. So there are a couple, with that being said, there are a couple who have applied it, specifically in the US, Cheerful Giving and Roundup app, two great companies. Cheerful Giving is actually probably one of our favorites in terms of competitors, just because they do everything really well. They're a registered charity themselves, so they have a slightly different business model. But they both Roundup app and Cheerful Giving, they offer Roundup solutions. So the same sort of process that we have, whereby you can link your card and round up your purchases and transactions, and then donate that digital spare change. Revolut is trying to do it in the U.S. or in Ireland, but Revolut is one of those challenger banks. So the challenger banks haven't really caught on too much in the U.S. outside of Venmo, but still, even with Venmo, you need a traditional bank in order to use a Venmo account. So Revolut really is trying to replace the antiquated banks in Ireland and the UK. And so what they do is they have their own personal account whereby you can kind of be completely flexible and sort of move money around within a savings account and an investment account. And now they've added a donation account. So they're trying to dip their toe into it, but the donation space is a little bit more complicated than they've thought. So what they've done is they've kind of just selected 3 charities, and that's it. That's all you can do is donate to one of their 3 pre-selected charities. So they've kind of taken the corporate approach rather than, you know, a flexible donation option. But they're still trying to raise awareness to the donation space and the micro donations space at that. So again, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've touched upon our business model. We are a for-profit company. We're not a nonprofit, and so we take a 15% platform fee. So any funds that flow through to a charity, we take 15%. So and that's, you know, saving charities up to 50% on their fundraising cost right now. So some of the simpler solutions like text to donate, they cost 18.5%. So something that you would think is traditionally pretty cheap. We're still coming in under the radar for them. So we're basically the cheapest option that most charities have been privy to or started using. So they're thrilled with our percentage, which we did get a lot of pushback at first from our donor research saying that 50% seemed high. And then once we kind of walked them through the existing fees that they were already kind of unknowingly paying, they kind of said, oh, wow, that is, you know, I didn't know I was paying that much specifically for text to donate. So yeah, we do have other streams of revenue that we hope to implement, but we haven't done so at this time. We're still kind of refining our core functionality, and we really want to get it out there and perfect it before we start opening up Pandora's box of all the other intricacies and nuances of new revenue streams. So this, again, is a bit of an outdated roadmap since we're already halfway through 2020. But this is kind of the last time we had pitched to an incubator, which, you know, I guess nobody's pitched to anybody since COVID started, specifically for incubation programs. But yeah, so I guess we'll start with kind of our new and up to date launch programs. So or timeline. We're expecting to launch in the U.S. with our version 2 of the web app in September, October. So that's being built right now. It's being updated. We're adding in multi-currency functionality, so we'll be able to handle both U.S. dollar and euros. Right now, any U.S. donor that signs up to our site is just converted to euros. So right now, we're working on, you know, separating out those 2 ecosystems so that we can pay out and keep completely separate the U.S. and the European money. We also are in the works with our mobile apps, just because we know how important mobile is going to be. We hope to have those ready by November, December, but we'll kind of play it by ear depending on how the timeline of the V2 of our web app comes out and the international expansion as well. We do have some pilot partners ready to go in the US. So we've had 2 schools kind of on deck. They were originally planned to start in January, but we had a couple delays. And then with COVID, we kind of just put everything on pause and pushed everything to the restart of the school year. So once we have the version 2 of the platform up and running, we'll be live in the US with a couple of great schools. Then in January 2020, that's kind of our biggest goal right now, is we want to be live with our first university. So the schools that we have in the pilot program are a high school and a middle school, both on the private side, both on the Jesuit side too, actually, coincidentally. And so we're hoping to kind of go through the DC market, understand how you know, US donors differ from Irish donors, and then we'll kind of make all the necessary tweaks and enhancements before we push it live to a university. Just because a university is a much bigger fish, and we got to walk before we can run. So we'll start we'll start with Ireland. Once we have Ireland, we'll move into the smaller schools in the U.S., and then we'll move to the universities. And that's kind of where we're at right now. There are also a couple of key hires in there, most notably on the design and marketing side of things. So we've already brought in our technical architect, and then we have a couple of great students working with us. So we'll just transition them into full-time, which is just kind of great to have students working with you that you like, just because it makes it an easy transition rather than kind of hiring somebody on the fly, which is why Sage Corp is so great, because people really get a taste of who you are and what you can do in a great summer full hands on deck program. Whereas when you're in the Sage Corp community, you're also not alone. There's 35 other or however many other people that you guys got in your cohort are all going through the same thing. Everything's new for everybody, so it's really a great experience, and it's really it's a 3-month interview really, because an internship is great, but everybody's kind of hoping for that full-time conversion or some great experience and a recommendation to another company as well. So yeah, these are just kind of our financial numbers. So I'm not sure if you can see the key figures because the camera icons may be blocking it. But as Lizzy had mentioned, the average round of amount is about 35 cents. So what that means is, you go to Starbucks, you go to Safeway, you go to Giant, you go anywhere. Most people would kind of imagine that the average round of amount would be 50 cents because it kind of falls in between all of the other possibilities. But I'm sure most of you are familiar. Everything ends at 99 cents. So obviously the data gets skewed a little bit to the lower side because on a 99-cent transaction only has 1 cent rounding up. And tax also plays a big factor into it, but we don't need to get into all the intricacies of how we got that roundup number. And the average number of transactions per month, as Lizzy mentioned, was about 70. And I'm sure a lot of you may go way over that number. I know my sister does. She's buying Starbucks 2-3 times a day, getting lunch, getting dinner, doesn't cook for herself. So I know that you can exceed any number of transactions that you want to exceed. So to put it into a little bit of perspective, 70 transactions in a month is between 2 and 3 a day. So 60 would be 2 a day, 90 would be 3 a day. And most people have, if you go to bars on the weekend, then that's a whole nother story in terms of all the unlimited expenditure that you can have. But what's nice about sort of our numbers and our revenue model is that it aligns exactly with your propensity to consume. So if you're spending more, it's likely because you have more money, which means that if you're spending more, you're donating more as well. And if you're trying to save money, you're buying less, you're not spending as much, so you're going to donate in step with that as well. So it really is dependent upon your lifestyle. And in addition to that, Lizzy had mentioned some of the tools, but you can turn roundups on and off at any time. It's completely flexible. So you're really in the driver's seat. You have total control of what you're doing with your donations. So that's it. That's kind of what we go through when we pitch to an investor. When we pitch to an investor, there's a couple of other slides in terms of exit strategy and things like that, which we're more than happy to talk about. But this is kind of our generic pitch deck of how we pitch to an incubation center, which is kind of where most startups really, understand what exactly their business does, strip down and really deconstruct all of their assumptions, all their ideas, and help kind of build and fortify all of their decision-making processes, and also helps introduce them to investors as well. So this is kind of what we go through, or exactly what we go through. We did this, I think, in February or March. And so, yeah, that's us. And we're happy to take any questions or go into the split sessions or whatever the next step.
Yeah. This was great. Thank you, Will and Lizzy. It was really, I think, insightful for everyone to see what a pitch deck honestly looks like and the different use cases. And obviously, as Will mentioned, if he and Lizzy were going to go for investment, there'd be some other assumptions and things that investors would want to see. But when trying to enter an incubator or an accelerator, as you may know them, that's kind of what they're looking for. So I think it's great for the students to visually see, what has to be in a pitch deck in order to have an idea and get someone on board. Really exciting things. You guys are obviously really exciting problem you're tackling just up front. And I think it's really also insightful to see that, you're a for-profit business, but also making positive impact. And those things are not mutually exclusive. And I think we can get really caught up in today of like, oh, if you're making money, there's no way you're only worried about shareholders and you're not making an impact for people. But clear with what Change Donations is doing, they're helping all of us be better individuals while at a big level, helping charities and other people execute social impact. So it's awesome company, and really appreciated the insight myself. I do want to open up quickly if there's any questions that anyone has from the deck that they want to ask. Otherwise, I want everyone to hear a little bit more about like the risk side of an entrepreneur, and you guys to talk about that. But before we dive in, based on what we just saw, does anyone have any questions they want to ask Will or Lizzy about any of the contents?
I actually had a question. So what would happen if you had like Acorns roundups on and your app? Like how would that work?
Yeah, so that's kind of a big question that we get a lot, because you're like most people think about it of, you have a finite amount of change, but in reality, all we do is we have access to your basically transaction history. So we'll see, and Acorns has the same access. So both us and Acorns will see, let's say you go to Starbucks and it's $2.85, we'll both see $2.85. So we will both calculate around for 15 cents, if that makes sense. So whereas we're not fighting over the same 15 cents, we're both connected into your transaction history. And so we both make use of the roundup, and then you can kind of go in and change it or cater it or curb it or do whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there, like you guys said, you have the ability to turn it on and off for Change Donations, but also choose where you donate to. And I'm not familiar with Acorns if you have that same capability. So you can see a world where the competitive advantage exists in who you're able to donate to. And if I align more with Change Donations partners, well, then I'm more likely to leave that one on. But ultimately 30 cents versus 15 cents, hopefully you just leave both on and you're making the donations. Something I really liked in your deck is the idea of my long-term donation history, and that I can watch that number grow over time. And so, like you said, you have to walk before you can run, and one thing at a time, but I can see really interesting gamification methodologies to competing with my friends to be able to donate. Obviously I increase my spending and I donate more, but there's interesting things there. And I really like that aspect. Any other questions about the deck from anyone? All right, cool. Well, thank you, Chase, for that. I do want to ask Will and Lizzy, right? So you're both from the States, building a company in Ireland. You went and got your MBA at Trinity, which is, not inherently as risky of a move, right? It's a risk to go abroad. And we heard from Jake and Chris at Dogpatch last week about moving abroad and got that whole perspective of taking that risk. But both of you were pursuing your MBA. And obviously there's the generic path of the MBA of I'm going to go back into a career in finance or marketing or whatever it might be. And you two obviously, had this idea and chose to pursue it. I'd love for you to talk more generally about what that risk was. Like Lizzy, you come from the startup world. Will, you come from the finance world. But what kind of risk did you have to overcome? Like, how would you articulate the ability to listen to yourself and overcome that risk to a group of students who maybe will leave undergrad with an idea they want to pursue, or 2 years into their career will have an idea they want to pursue, and they have to be willing to, forego what might be a quote unquote better option, safer option, and take that risk? Long way to get to the same question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a big level of financial risk, and adding an MBA to that also compounds, because it's more money going out the door rather than starting a business. But with everybody, if they're leaving a job, they're obviously putting money away or foregoing money. And in most cases, you'll probably have stock options if it's a big company, and you're probably foregoing that as well, which is something that both Lizzy and I had to kind of forego in order to move to Ireland. But at the end of the day, one of the things that somebody told me that really helped me kind of ignore that risk, because most people in their early 20s think of it as sunk cost, that but they're still attached to it, so they don't want to give up on it. Is that you'll make 90% of your wealth in the last 5 years of your working career. And so it really just kind of helps you say, okay, well, my decision-making processes early on should be a little bit riskier because I can afford to take the risk now rather than wait and take the risk when my life is really dependent on it. So that's kind of a cold-hearted answer to an emotionally charged decision. But in terms of risk, I've had a pretty high risk appetite my whole life. And so it wasn't really like, I guess the mental headspace of being on a set path was more risky to me than doing something that I cared about. And I knew that, eventually I needed to take that risk, and you just kind of have to push yourself and say, I can't keep pushing this down the line 1 more year, 2 more years, because you'll never be ready. So you just have to pull the trigger once you make the decision, and then obviously think through it. Don't make an impulse decision, but there has to be a bit of somebody might have to kick you off the ledge in order for you to jump, I guess.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, Lizzy, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, on my side, I'd probably echo most of that. So I also probably had a bigger appetite for risk, and I'd seen so many I've been at part of so many startups from early stage. So I knew what it took, and I just never kind of was able to take the jump before, or always thought I couldn't. And I'd say, for me, the older you get, the harder it is to take the risk, because you have built up some financial security. You might be I was saving to buy a house, so you're then foregoing certain things. So I think it's important to weigh what's more important to you. Is it more important to you to have the set paycheck coming in, or is it more important for you to try and see if it works or not? And so that's what I had to then weigh, because I waited, I worked for 10 years before. So it was definitely tough to kind of give up a paycheck. But that if you are smart about it, and you do, like Will said, you do your planning, you are putting money away, then it's a calculated risk. And I think you have to make sure you believe in the idea, you believe in yourself, you believe in, if you have a business partner, you believe that you're going to be a good team. And then it is a calculated risk. So it's, I guess, you're de-risking yourself a little bit. But I'd say also, do make sure that you are prepared for that. Do make sure you have been saving and you are ready. Don't make a snap decision. Because if you do that, then you are risking, you may make a decision that you shouldn't have made because you're running out of money, or, things like that. So I think it's important to be prepared. It's important to be prepared for worst case. We would have, I think, assumed we're making more money than we were last year. We would have assumed we would launch earlier, so we had more donations coming in. And there's always things that you won't be able to predict. Things will always kind of be usually harder than you expect. So I think just be prepared for that. And when you have a good team in place and everything, it's not that bad. I don't regret it for a second, but it definitely can be hard.
It's great advice from both of you. And there's an element, right, that you heard from both of them. You have to validate what you're doing. It's not so much as you wake up one day and this is a great idea and I'm going to go do it. But I want to add an element to what they're saying to all of you. I know from personal experience and friends from undergrad at Michigan, the best time to start a business is while you're in school to some extent. You have access to resources that you'll never have. You have access to talent and connections and network effects that you will have in the future, but not to the same extent you have on your campuses and within your networks, to distribute products or goods or ideas, whatever it is, technology. So I encourage those of you who are getting a taste of that this summer and thinking about things for yourself as you come back to campus, looking at what resources exist. There are a lot of on-campus incubators. I know Michigan had an entrepreneurship center, still has one. I'm sure Trinity had resources that the two of you were able to leverage from an entrepreneurship perspective, so that you talk to seasoned entrepreneurs and you had access to conversations that let you realize, okay, this is doable, possible, and a risk that we want to take, instead of living in a silo. So I want to add that element to the flair that you're in a really low risk position to take a high risk option, especially for those of you coming out of undergrad, and have the ability to do it. You're not foregoing, if you never have a paycheck, you're not foregoing anything, right? I mean, there's obviously the flip side of it of maybe you need to get a paycheck, but if you never know what that feels like, you don't know what you're missing. So you have that opportunity as well. So I want to make sure from your perspectives, you have that insight as well. And I thank you, Will and Lizzy, for your insight on taking that risk, because ultimately, like you said, the chosen path, you know what it is. And if you never do this, you in 20, 30 years, you look back and itch and say, what could have been? and at least you'll know, and satisfying that really works for a lot of people. But ultimately you must know yourself. What I think could be great now is maybe we jump into, actually I'll do it when we come back. So we'll jump into breakout rooms. I've split up the students to be half and half with each of you. So you can ask more specific questions to Will and Lizzy about the business, about their paths, whether it's, startups for Lizzy or finance careers for Will. As I've said in the past 2 weeks, if you're in a room with Will or Lizzy and you want to be in the other room, message me on here or on Slack, and I can swing you either way. For example, if you want to learn more about finance, want to learn more about startups, just let me know. We'll be in there for maybe 15, 20 minutes and then come back and wrap it up. So I'm going to send you all to those rooms now and come prepared with questions. And lastly, and I'll shut up, is as we go into the rooms, those of you whose cameras are off, please turn them on so that Will and Lizzy can see you, and maybe they'll ask you to introduce yourself so they know who they're talking to. So now's the time really to turn the camera on if you haven't yet. So let's make that happen. You guys should all have rooms that should be popping up, prompting you to join a room somewhere. Hey, Jason, Mai, Wendon, Audrey, and Jiang. You should have a pop-up that says to go to a specific room.
I didn't see any pop-up actually.
Okay, let me see what room I assigned.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's
Good
up?
to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Jacob, could you send me to Will's room?
Yes.
I'm on a separate Zoom on my phone, and it got sent to Lizzy, so I tried joining again from the computer.
You should see it now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Jiang, do you want to go to a specific room?
Randomly. I have no specific preference.
You should see it. I moved you to. You should be in Will's room. You should. I don't know where it pops up. It says you haven't joined. I don't know if it's at the breakout rooms or in the bottom or whatever it might be.
Yeah, okay. Check. Actually, I didn't see any of the pop-ups, which is super weird. Okay, I see. Yep, I see Will's room. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, Wendon, Sarah, Audrey, and Mai, you guys should all be assigned to a room.
I got disconnected, then I joined again, so I can't see any room.
All right, I assigned you to Lizzy's room. I'll move you to Will's, but then I'll move you back to Lizzy. But you should see it somewhere.
There's a breakout room tab. Should I hit on that?
Yeah, hit that, and it should say you should have something that for you to join.
Okay, sure. But before, can I ask you a question actually?
Yeah, totally.
For the General Assembly sessions, we will not have access to the recordings.
So Sam has been getting the recordings, and we should be able to share them. So if you want a specific session, you can message her and let her know. You can let her know which session, and she should be able to send you those recordings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I know it's late where you are.
Yeah, it's 9 p.m. now.
Do you see the room? I've switched you between each now. You should be in Lizzy's room. I'm not sure exactly how it appears. There you go. Okay. I'm gonna join.
business?
Yeah. So Ireland is really great for starting business. They're trying to get people to start businesses here. So there's really good kind of tax laws and stuff around it. That being said, they also don't really understand what it means to, like, the visas are kind of strange and stuff. So my experience, to be fair, is only in the US and Ireland. So yeah, like I found it like relatively easy, and a big part of it actually was also just because it's small enough that you can ask people until you find the right person to get the answer that you want. And yeah, so I don't really have a lot of experience other places. I'd say if you do have a target market that you want to get in, or you want to start the business in, a really kind of not easy way to do it, but if you can get into an incubator in that country, they'll pave the way for you to do it. So I'd say that's probably if you can get into the incubator, it's probably the easiest path forward.
Thanks.
Yeah. Is there a country that you're looking at that you want to go to?
Well, not actually. It's just I'm from Mexico, so it's kind of like I don't know. Think of like places to expand if I start a business here. Like where should I don't know. Like if I don't know, like make a online store. Where should I like you know, like expand the market and everything. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, you definitely are. And I think it's also like, so we're going into the US, but we're going to keep our team here, because when you look at cost of development and stuff, like the US is just like cost prohibitive. So
Right.
you can always have like a headquarters in place and travel out somewhere else. And so like, that's kind of what I started to look at is where is it easy to kind of like start the business, but not necessarily have feet on the ground. That's kind of easy to get a passport and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You talked about kind of generational trends and differences in donating. Have you noticed any cultural differences based off like Ireland or US?
Yeah, big time. So actually, I should have probably mentioned this, but one of the reasons that I wanted to move, so I'm from San Francisco, well, I'm from Palo Alto, but I was in San Francisco for the last like 8 years, basically. And it's because it's kind of the central of all tech. I don't know if anyone else is from there, but like you'll try anything, and I don't think you get a realistic view of the market. And how consumer reception of what you're doing. So I was always interested in starting something on my own. I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So that's one reason I wanted to get an MBA. But I also wanted to get an MBA far from home but in sort of a techie area, because I thought it would be important to get a better understanding of like actual consumer behavior and how people would receive a product. And so for me, I knew I was getting that coming here, and it definitely, you definitely do. Like people, while Dublin is said to be a tech hub, like it's not comparable at all. People are really hesitant. They don't trust tech as much. You need to, the education piece is a lot more important. So like hurdles that like that I was able to say to you guys, you know, it's kind of like Acorns, but for donations. No one would have a clue what I was talking about. Like it takes Amazon 2 weeks to get here sometimes. Like things are just not, it's not an even playing field. So yeah, there's definitely cultural differences, and the trust factor was the biggest piece there. I think you can also use that to your advantage, and like we always knew it was going to be harder, and we've used it to our advantage. So because it's harder and because people don't trust tech as much, we've had the chance to really refine our message and figure out what people need to hear to be really comfortable. How do you explain something as though you're explaining it to someone that's never seen tech before, because sometimes you are. So it actually, I think it will be to our benefit in the end, but yeah, there are definitely differences, and at times it can be extremely frustrating.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a great question, Ryan. I'm gonna selfishly ask a question. Can you talk more? Because I mean, everyone's in their undergrad right now. I'm a few years out, obviously, more than a few, but the point is maybe they're thinking about, I don't study business right now, but an MBA is something I want to do in the future. I don't know if someone already asked this before I joined, but you want to talk about, some of the positives of going through the MBA experience. You just hit on why you wanted to go abroad for it. But what else you gained out of it? Obviously you found a business partner, but other learnings and resources and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I can say, first of all, like everyone that's doing undergrads now and in taking part of this program, I applaud you. Like I was so far from knowing what I wanted to do or like understanding business when I was in my undergrad. So like it took me a while to get there. And I think I learn the best in a hands-on sort of environment. So I kind of needed work and experience and all of that to really understand what I wanted to do. So it took me a while to find it and to kind of find my niche. And then I guess so in terms of the MBA for me, I probably went later than most people would. I wish I hadn't, but I needed to learn kind of what areas I wanted to go into. So for me, it was the right decision. And the biggest like if you go early, it's great because you're able to kind of jumpstart your career. I was probably at the point in my career where I didn't really need it. But I think it really helped me think about things from more of an academic perspective. So I kind of knew all the pieces that needed to go into building a startup because I'd been in small teams for years, but I didn't understand like how business plan would affect the actual business, like all of the kind of nitty gritty things that seem like busy work. Being part of a startup, like if anyone ever goes to one, you'll kind of learn like everyone's like, oh, meetings are like stupid. We don't need to do all these kind of admin tasks. I learned how to manage those and why they're important and how all the pieces work together. So for me, it was really a structure thing. And the ability to think, okay, how do I go from a small startup to then a bigger company? Because I think I was really missing that piece. I love the small startup side of things. I love like rolling my sleeves up and doing the work, but to really build the business and have the company grow, I needed all the pieces, the kind of stepping stones and how it would fit together, and even the mentorship to be able to kind of understand how to then run and manage a team. So not just doing the work. So for me, that was the biggest thing, was learning to step away. Not to, I haven't had a chance to yet, but like I have learned the importance. So long-winded answer, but.
No, it's a great answer nonetheless. I think, especially I think it relates to everyone because they're all interning at startups this summer, right? So they're all getting the experience of rolling their sleeves up and doing things that are maybe higher level or aren't the nitty gritty, and you overlook the importance of, structured business plan and financial statements and things that you're like, oh wait, like that actually is the outcomes of all this work I'm doing and matters as I grow things. So it helps me for sure as well. Is it something I'm starting to consider too? So thank you for that. Any other last questions? We'll wrap up in a couple of minutes as you see the timer and come back together. But does anyone else here have any other questions for Lizzy? If not, then you guys are gonna introduce yourself. So she knows who she's talking to. I don't know if that already happened or not.
I have a question. Sorry.
No, you're good. No.
You mentioned how when you were at your MBA program, there were a lot of younger people in your year. I'm just wondering if there are other sorts of trends or patterns that you see in people in your field right now, and I don't know what this might be compared to the U.S.
Oh, interesting. So, yeah. Well, in the MBA, like I was probably the average age, but not the median age. So there were like older people as well, but primarily, like I'm 35. Primarily, it was people that were under 30. In terms of like the difference between the like startup community here versus San Francisco, it's actually a lot older here. So, and I haven't quite figured that piece out, but yeah, it seems to be a lot older. So it's less of like the founders that are 22 and, right out of college or like dropped out of school. It's more people that actually have had a career for a long time, probably have a family and kids, and then were like an expert in their field, and then decided to start something based on that. So like we're in Dogpatch Labs. You met Jake and Chris. Like I kind of expected everyone in there would be 20, and you know, the ping pong tables and all the typical tech stuff. And we have all the typical tech stuff, but everyone's just much older. And people also here, this is probably, so people also have a different work-life balance, which is probably why they're older when they start. So people don't tend to, like, the office is dead at 5. I can't get over it. So that type of thing, like the working hours are very, like people have a lot of vacation, they take all of their holidays. It probably is a good thing. It's just not something I'm used to. So the work-life balance is much better here. Yeah, it's very different. People still get a lot of work done, but they make sure they squeeze it into their day versus kind of like staying in longer and, you know, going out together and whatever, living and breathing each other. It's very kind of, this is my office time, and if it's not my office time, I am off. So.
Thank you. That's great, and I've seen that too in my travels to Europe and understanding the work culture. It's really distinct. Like they get months off in Europe. Like entire month of August is basically like nothing in a lot of the countries we send students to typically, and they're like, and everyone takes it. It's not like, oh, I have this PTO I'm not going to use.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But yeah, for us, people tell us like, oh, the summer, no deals get done in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
July, maybe. Like August, definitely not. Like done. It's really, and December also doesn't count.
Not all a bad thing. All right, we're going to go back as a big group and see if you have some questions. We'll have an opportunity there as well. So I'm going to close rooms.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like we're there in the sense that we still have a spot there, but we haven't been there since February. But yeah, no, Dogpatch has been great. And that's another thing that if you can find good co-working space, definitely go for it.
Yeah. Well, to bring it back together, right? Last week we talked to Jake and Chris and learned about Dogpatch. I don't know if you guys did that in Will's room, but in Liz's room, to everyone who was there, you know, Change Donations is running out of Dogpatch. So you learned about the space and what they do. You know, they're building their company in that space, which is really cool. Obviously, so it ties it all together in terms of, okay, Jake and Chris talked about X, Y, and Z. You know, Lizzy and Will are building ABC, and the rest of the alphabet exists in Dogpatch, and that's where they're all together, I guess, if that analogy makes any sense. Cool. So thanks for answering the questions. I hope there were some good ones. As a big group, are there any remaining questions that you all wanted to address to the other person that maybe didn't get a chance or want to address as a bigger group? I'll give the floor to anyone now if there are any. Okay. Well, it takes silence as a no, which is all good. I will address a final question to Will and Lizzy, and then we can wrap up and we can get on with the weekends here in the 4th of July. Elsewhere, you know, your weekend nonetheless. And Will and Lizzy, we asked this too. We've been asking this the last couple of weeks, so I'll ask you as well. What is your kind of, as they're all navigating internships as startups, as you know, what would be your startup cliche or adage, like done is better than perfect, things you've learned in your experience that you want to impart on the students as they continue to navigate and grow in their internships? I'll let you guys have at it, whoever will, you seem ready.
Like a trite expression that shouldn't be used, or one that actually is useful? Useful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would kind of go with that first one that you said, and that, and I guess kind of change it a little bit. So I would say, better is the enemy of good sometimes. So there's endless amounts of improvements that you can make to your product, and sometimes good enough is good enough. So getting something out into the hands of you know, donors and users or whoever's paying for it, so customers, it changes the way you think about a lot of things. So in order to kind of get that out as soon as possible, sometimes you have to accept that it's good enough, and perfecting it before you launch it isn't always the best move.
That's great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think mine would be, that's usually what I say. So mine then would be, I was just telling someone this today, that to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So there's lots of things that, like, the rules might say these exact things, but like, and in startups especially, like you get a lot of leniency and leeway. So if you don't do something totally perfect, it's fine. You say you're sorry and everyone kind of forgives you. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway. Like think outside of the box. Like even when you're in college, I remember we were doing this kind of like ropes course thing and we kept losing because we were following all the rules to a T. And we realized like if you just bend the rules, you're not actually cheating. You're just thinking outside the box, and it really does make a difference. So yeah, just that's my ask for forgiveness, not permission.
That's also great, and I think I appreciate hearing that because that's something we've told them, and so it's great to hear a founder emphasize it because it's, you know, it's not just me sounding like a kook who's like this guy who's working at SageCore telling them something. You know, Lizzy's building this company you heard about. I'm not just making stuff up. It comes from someplace that's real. So again, I encourage you to use that as you navigate your internships and take that to heart as you think about creative solutions for the companies you're working at. I want to, if there's any last minute comments or anything anyone has, now's the time. Otherwise, you know, we'll wrap up and everyone can get on with their days and evenings and wherever you are. Once again, thank you, Will and Lizzy, for taking the time to talk about your experience, talk about change donations. You know, we'll share emails and stuff. Obviously, you know, these students are at universities that maybe you want to either or work with or learn more about. So happy to share more information about our students as well and help however we can. But I guess actually before we wrap up, that would be nice. I don't know if it got done in either room. Maybe just 2 sentences about everyone, who they are and where they go to school, so Lizzy and Will can know who that they were talking to today, and then we'll wrap up and head out. You guys know Sam, but John Mathena, you're in the top up left corner of my screen right now, so you're the guinea pig who gets to go first. Just name, where you go to school, and company you're working at this summer. John Mathena, you're up. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm John Mathena. I go to Vanderbilt University. I'm a senior studying computer science and mathematics. And this summer, I'm working at Connect Care Hero, which is a startup that's working to help connect people in senior living communities to their families.
Cool. We'll go Zhang, Kate, Sarah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Zhang, and right now I am a rising sophomore at Boston College, majoring in finance and economics. And this summer I'm working at Brink. It is a Hong Kong-based venture capital group.
Kate Grossman, you're up.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure if there's someone before. I'm Kate. I am a rising senior at Carleton College studying computer science and math, and this summer I'm working at Race Mapper.
Awesome.
I'm Sarah. I am a rising senior at Arizona State studying journalism and mass communication, and I am working for Renzo Box, which is a makeup company.
Celia, Paula, and Mia.
Okay, hi, I'm Celia. I'm a rising senior at the University of Michigan, and I'm studying industrial operations engineering. And this summer I'm working at Invisible Technologies. It's an outsourcing, automation, and work sharing company.
Hi, I'm Paula Diaz. I'm a rising junior at Northwestern University studying economics and international studies, and I'm working at KPI Sense, which is a fintech in Chicago.
Hi, I'm Mia. I'm a rising junior at Northwestern studying music, psych, and business, and I'm interning at Dick Cabeza, which is an entertainment app.
Kevin, Shriyash, Tuda.
Hey, I'm Kevin. I'm a rising sophomore at Yale, probably going to be on a gap year. And this summer, I'm going to be interning, or I'm currently interning at Brink, which is the venture accelerator that Xiang mentioned earlier.
Hi, I'm Shriyash. I'm a rising senior at Grinnell College, studying economics and political science. And I'm working this summer at Spotivity, which is a double-sided marketplace connecting teens to after-school programs.
Hi, I'm Teuta. I'm a rising junior at the University of Michigan. I'm studying international studies and French, and I'm working at Lot Art Auctions, which is an
Teuta froze, but they help. They do art. art auctions online to help buyers and sellers, obviously, the marketplace. And Teuda, sorry for butchering your name. Paola, Justin, and Chase.
Hi, I'm Paola. I'm a rising junior at Tec de Monterrey. I'm majoring in mechatronics engineering. And this summer, I'm working on a company called Shira Artificial Intelligence, which they make like chatbots and RPAs, yeah, and yeah, that kind of stuff. Which is really cool.
Hi, my name is Justin. I go to the University of Arizona, where I'm a rising senior, majoring in business management and entrepreneurship. And this summer, I'm working with a company called Codeland, which is based in Lagos, Nigeria, and we help companies hire and recruit tech talent all over the world.
Hi, I'm Chase. I'm a rising junior at Michigan studying econ and entrepreneurship, and I'm working at Expanse AI, which does automated predictive analytics for businesses.
Cool. Right. Expanse is based in Dublin as well, out of the, the NDRC, GC. Ryan, Sam, Sebastian.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a rising senior at Georgia Tech, and I study mechanical engineering and math. And I'm working at a startup called Tiny Toronto, and they do backyard homes in Toronto.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a recent graduate from Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri, and I studied Spanish translation and international business. I'm currently at Must Barcelona, which is a travel-related social media platform.
Hi, I'm Sebastian. I go to school at Amherst College, but I live in New Jersey. I'm currently working at Startup Bootcamp, which is an accelerator located in Melbourne.
Awesome. Thanks, Sebastian. So Boston representation, Amherst, UMass, so nearby, correct? And, Abby, Noah, and Takara. I messed it up, but I didn't remember it, so I try to cover both bases.
Hi, I'm Abigail. I go to Notre Dame studying chemical engineering. And this summer I'm working with MyCare, which is a technology company in the UK in geriatric healthcare.
Hi, I'm Noah. Sorry, my camera's broken. I'm studying economics at Brandeis in Massachusetts. I'm a rising senior, and this summer I'm working with GoLogic Solutions.
Hi, my name is Takara. I am going to my 4th year at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago, and I am studying global studies along with information technology management. And I am currently interning at a company called Peanut Butter. So we are based in Buffalo, New York. We help offer student loan assistance to employers and brokers to help their employees.
Thanks. All right, Agnes, Wei, and Krish.
Hi everyone, I'm Agnes, a rising senior at Cornell studying statistics and business. And this summer I'm interning at BizIntro, which is a network managing company.
Hi, I'm Wei. I'm a rising third year at University of Virginia. I'm currently interning with Peregrine Technologies, which does real-time traffic analytics based in Germany, Berlin.
Hey, Chris, you're muted. There you go. Thanks.
Sorry, my bad. Hi, I'm Krish. I'm a rising senior at Yale, a double majoring in maths and physics. And this summer, I'm interning with Purple Gaze, which is a biomedical company that works on generalizing medical data.
All right, and we'll wrap it up. Maddie, Marge, Teddy, Oscar, Wendon.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I'm a rising senior at Miami University studying communications. And this summer I'm interning with Renzo Box.
Hi, my name is Marge. I'm a rising senior at Princeton, studying aerospace engineering, and I'm interning at App Jobs in Sweden. And it's basically, we look for different ways to get gig workers like we streamline the background and ID check process, so it makes it easier for them to get a job at like Uber and different app jobs.
Hi, I'm Teddy. I'm a rising senior at University Colorado Boulder, and I'm studying advertising. I'm interning for an application called MobiPark, which is like Airbnb, but for parking spaces. And it does like a personal sector and a B2B sector with a lot of hotels.
Teddy, wherever you are, looks like a green screen. Looks perfect behind you.
I'm in Idaho right now, by the lake.
Nice. That's awesome. Oscar and then Wendon.
Hey, I'm a student at Northwestern University. I study manufacturing and design engineering, and I am currently interning at Sigway Co. They're a company in Myanmar, and they're a fintech company that give microloans to people, to poverty-stricken people caught in cycles of debt. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
Wendon, if you're there, you're up. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Maybe next time, we're learning on the fly, maybe flip that on their head and they introduce themselves up front. But as you can see, there's some overlap in terms of the universities you presented and the universities represented here. So I'll leave on this note. One, thank you again, Will and Lizzy. Really appreciate it and learning about change donations further. So round of applause to you all. And as you all head back to your campuses potentially this fall, looking out for change donations in the App Store and on the web app, and being micro-influencers on your campus and upping those percentages in terms of alumni donations at your schools. So thanks once again. If either party, Will and Lizzy, you want to learn more about the students and vice versa, students, Will and Lizzy, we're happy to share contact information either direction. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time today. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Justin, for your message. And we'll talk to you all next week, and take care, Will and Lizzy, as well again. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.